Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
7:07 now. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here Thursday morning as we plow through a very busy news cycle and keep you informed, ready to seize the day, and hopefully entertained. I want you to have a smile on your face. Smiled. There, that's better. Coming up in 30 minutes, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, 8:05, will be joined by Steve Moore of Heritage Foundation. Hey, I'm Larry O'Connor. Hey, that's Mercedes Schlapp. Hey, Mercedes.
Hey, Larry, what's going on?
Hey, I know you know this guy, Michael Glassner, former Chief Operating Officer of the Donald Trump 2020 presidential campaign. Sort of knows what's going on in Trump world. He joins us now. By the way, he's chairman of Frontline Government Relations, sort of helping all of us navigate through what's going on in Washington, D.C. Mr. Glassner, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Larry, Mercedes, it's great to be with you.
Hey. So Mike Johnson, the speaker, he wrangles the cats, does everything he needs to do. Everyone said he couldn't do it with such a slim majority, but he got the votes for that continuing resolution, fund the government through September, knowing that we've got a reconciliation package coming. And then we throw it over to the Senate. You think, they're supposed to be the grown-ups in the room. They'll get this done. And then it couldn't pass cloture last night. They couldn't get the 60 votes, I guess they needed 7 Democrats total. So now what? Are we going to have a government shutdown? And it's all Chuck Schumer's fault, right? I mean, he had one job here.
Larry, I got to agree with you. Mike Johnson has been the most underestimated Speaker of the House for a long time. Like, his ability to keep the Republican Congress together, it's really remarkable. That's one weakness I think Republicans have had over the past many years, is that the Democrats operate as a solid block, right? They have great party discipline. Republicans, not so much. But Mike Johnson has really turned that around, of course, with the backing of President Trump. It's hard to say no when the president tells you say yes. So I think he did a terrific job at this CR in the House. The Democrats in the Senate now are in an impossible position. If they're going to be held responsible for shutting down the government, if they don't pass this. If they do, then their base is going to go nuts for supporting President Trump and Elon Musk's agenda. So they're in a terrible spot, and I'm glad to see it.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, obviously, the tariffs seem to be the big talk in the D.C. swamp, and now we saw the European Union, it's basically Politico had this headline, wield sledgehammer against Trump tariffs. How best can the Trump team keep, kind of this calmness during this time that so many of these businesses are a little panicked about what's happening with President Trump and his decision to put tariffs in place?
Thank you, Mercedes. And you know President Trump as well and better than anyone. So I think you know what he's doing. President Trump has seen tariffs, I think, as 3 primary tools. One is his leverage. Secondly, is to generate revenue. And third, to fulfill his campaign promise to reindustrialize the American heartland. So I don't think, those are very powerful weapons, and I don't think he's going to abandon it anytime soon. And the president said himself, there could be some short-term pain, but in the long term, we've got to rebuild the American industrial base. I think he understands that. The base of the Republican Party that supports him at 90%, they understand that. So I think, the Wall Street has typically been totally wrong about President Trump and about his agenda. They didn't support him at 16. In 20, they were, not so good. 24, really, they were not a great funder. So I think, they've been wrong about Trump a lot. I think they just have fallen into the trap of the status quo, and the amount of change that President Trump is bringing into the American economy makes them uncomfortable. They're going to have to deal with that because he's going to make us a stronger, more America-first economy.
But here's what I think part of the problem is. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said access to cheap goods isn't the American dream, and it's a fair point. And I think that a lot of things that we've been able to buy cheaply because it's been built overseas, specifically in China, it's only been cheap because we've exploited, sadly, through corporations and through mega stores, cheap labor, and in some cases even you could describe it as slave labor. I get that. The problem is twofold. Number one, would love to see manufacturing return to the United States. That doesn't happen overnight. So there's going to be some lag time here where we're still building overseas and we're paying higher prices on them because of tariffs until we can get those jobs here in America. And also, by the way, it will be more expensive here because we have a higher standard of living, we have higher environmental regulations, and we have higher labor standards here. And that's fine as long as everybody's working and making money and the economy is jumping back up. But we're not there yet. The economy, people are still struggling from the Biden economy. So as prices go up because of these policies and we don't have access to cheap goods, what are we supposed to do if we don't have higher paying jobs quite yet? Because, these things are lagging sort of policies that need to start syncing up. And as you said, President Trump said that it's not going to happen overnight.
I think that the general populace of the United States understand that, right? And they understand that the economy and the way it's been built, the globalization, the export of our jobs abroad, particularly to Mexico and Canada, is not sustainable. So, the bad policies that have been promoted by Democrats on the left, and particularly in the Biden administration, has caused a terrific degradation of our economy. I think the American public understand that. That's why they voted for President Trump, put him back into office for a second term. So I think there's an understanding of that. By the way, we have to remember too that the inflation that was brought on by Biden's reckless spending, that's what's really caused the pain for the American people. The cost of goods, the cost of groceries, everything has gone through the roof. That's already begun to stabilize under President Trump. I think we'll continue to see that as he promotes his agenda.
The other question, Michael, is on this issue of the Ukraine and Russia and seeking peace. I got to tell you, I'm just so incredibly proud of the president as he is, his message is so clear. I mean, even yesterday at the White House, he talked about this importance of achieving peace. And it was even the Irish prime minister who was very much saying that he admired the president for doing this. But now we're at a point that you've seen the Ukrainian team and Zelensky saying, okay, we're there. We want to get the ceasefire done. But now Russia's coming back with these demands to the U.S., these demands including no NATO membership for Kiev, no foreign troops in Ukraine. And so it's kind of unclear of where President Putin is in engaging in these peace talks. Where do you think this will end up, basically?
Well, I think ultimately a successful outcome for what the American people want for President Trump has promoted in his campaign, which is stop the killing. Marco Rubio made a statement on the way to Canada for the G7 negotiations that the goal is to stop the missiles from flying and from people from dying. So I think that ultimately that's going to be the outcome. I think, again, this is the art of the deal that President Trump has employed, throughout his life, is to keep his opponents off balance. He did that clearly with Zelensky, right? And Zelensky's performance in the Oval Office, I think, was tremendously degrading for him. And now he's got Putin in the same spot. So the president, the United States and Ukraine are in a place of agreement, and now Putin is in the box. And the president has also threatened, even further economic sanctions against Russia, which would be devastating to their economy. I mean, we can't forget their economy has been hollowed out by this war. There were, the men and women who have died in Ukraine, fighting this war has been tremendously devastating for the Russian economy. So I think Putin is, he puts out a image as a strong man, but he's got a lot of weaknesses. And I think ultimately President Trump is going to be able to negotiate an agreement that's good for everyone, including the people in Ukraine who are dying. It's just got to stop.
Michael Glassner, part of the team heading up the Frontline Government Relations, which has been described as the new K Street MAGA coalition there, as we got some pro-Trump lobbyists now getting some work. It's about time. It's about time K Street had some pro-Trump America First representation. So good luck with the new venture, and it's great hearing from you. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you, Larry Mercedes. It's an honor to be with you.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Yeah, that's the trailer for the new live-action Snow White that's been revamped more times than Nancy Pelosi's Botoxed forehead. But now we're hearing, as Snow White nears finally its premiere, starring Rachel Zegler as Snow White and Gal Gadot as the evil queen, who apparently is jealous of Rachel's looks, which is a laugh riot.
Is that for real? Is that for
Yes.
real?
I'm rooting
Okay.
for the Queen in this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Disney's now announcing that they're going to have a subdued Hollywood premiere.
Why?
After weathering criticism over the live-action film's casting. Now, by the way, and they try to make this sound like because Rachel Ziegler is of Latina descent. No one cares about that, and no one cares about your dwarfs. First of all, everything about this movie has
No
been a
one
train
cares
wreck from the
about your
beginning.
dwarfs.
Including the star. Listen, let's not forget this is Rachel Zegler on the red carpet, a year and a half ago, ripping on the entire premise of Snow White. Here, listen.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
She's not going to be
yeah.
saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign. Yeah.
Yeah, get political, dear. She also has backed Hamas, and her co-star Gal Gadot is of Israeli descent, and actually was a member
Gal
of the
Gadot,
Israeli
let me tell you,
Defense
she-
Forces. Love
She's
her.
gorgeous. Just
She's
gorgeous.
perfect.
Stunning.
Yeah, you
No,
in no
but-
way can tell me that freaking mirror tells you that she's not the fairest in the land. Okay,
No, she's totally the
mirror is
fairest of the
broken.
land. But can I tell you, as a Latina myself, like, dude, let the prince save you. I think it's awesome. Like, it's beautiful to have a love story and to fall in love and to have great, healthy relationships. And I think this idea that, oh, you have to be this or you have to be that. And, I think for women, and it really happened in my generation and kind of like the older generation as well, it was this emphasis on everything being like career, 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 career. You can't have a relationship, I am woman, hear me roar. And it's like, yeah, but then you're alone and then it's miserable. So you know what? I love the prince. Bring it back. Help him save Snow White. She can be tough too. I love that too. Maybe they can go off and, go after the queen. But I don't know. I'm sticking with the stepmother. I'm with the
I
queen.
have mixed feelings on the live action versions of animated movies. I think sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss.
Little Mermaid was great, and I think Beauty and the Beast was great.
So I'm not a huge fan of the Beauty and the Beast, just because I'm that one. I worked on the Broadway production, and I just it's hard to.
I thought you were going to say you were the Beast.
I will tell
Or
you
Beauty.
this. I will tell you, I love the live action Aladdin. A lot of people were like, "Oh, Will Smith."
Oh, that was good. I agree.
I
with you.
liked the
Yeah.
live action Aladdin.
Yeah, I would agree
and
with you.
I'm not into the live action Snow White. I think the trailer looks terrible. But let me tell you something. Did your kids like Lilo and Stitch? I loved Lilo and Stitch. That's a fun Disney
they did.
animated
They did
movie.
like it. Mm-hmm.
So yesterday I saw the trailer for the live action Lilo and Stitch. It looks really good.
So
I have
fun.
to say. It looks pretty
Okay.
fun,
Well,
and it
maybe
looks
the
like they
kids will go
stayed
watch
true to
it.
the. See, here's the key: if you want to do a remake, or if you want to do a live action to sort of breathe new life into the animated films, I understand Disney has no one creative working there anymore, and they don't want to hire
Nobody.
writers because they're a pain in the butt. So you just remake things that have already worked. That's fine, but you've got to stay true to the original. That's the problem with this
Yes.
Snow White. It has nothing to do with the ethnicity of the actress playing Snow White. It has nothing to do with being upset like Peter Dinklage, the actor, who
Right.
has dwarfism, is upset that you're putting 7 dwarfs in a cave or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with honoring the heritage of the script and honoring the beauty of what made these movies so great in the first place. And instead,
Yeah,
Disney
and
likes to Disney trashes their own legacy, for God's sake.
I know, and it's
stupid.
about the storytelling, right? It is about
Yes.
the storytelling. And yeah, you can modernize it. I totally get it. And they did this with the other Snow White movie that it was with Angelina Jolie, and I forgot the other character.
Yeah,
But,
that wasn't
they
Disney,
were,
though, I don't think.
But it wasn't Disney, but
Oh, no, that was, excuse me, that was Snow White. It was Maleficent. Excuse me, it was Sleeping Beauty.
No,
it was Sleeping Beauty. And it was the
No, there's
Maleficent
another one.
character. It was great.
I'll
Did
figure
you know
out
that
the
when
other
I
one.
worked at Disneyland, I dated Maleficent.
What?
I dated Maleficent when I worked
You
at
did not.
Disneyland. Yeah, when I was like
Was
18.
she like drop dead gorgeous?
She was so beautiful. Yeah.
Really? Mean?
Kind of. She was super mean. Yeah. It's my type.
It's your type.
It's
It's so your type.
I married Scorpina from Power Rangers, for God's sake, the first time. Now I've kicked that habit. Now I go for the Meredith is the all-American good girl. But back then I sort of liked
she totally is.
the evil women. Yeah.
The evil
Let that be
women.
a lesson to you.
You
young
got
man.
through that phase. I'm so glad you got through that phase. Praise God.
Exactly. Me too.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:37. It's O'Connor and Company here. Thanks for tuning in to start your day the right way in your nation's capital. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp. We got Steve Moore joining us coming up at 8:05. But right now we're joined by Cabinet Secretary Doug Collins. He, of course, heading up the all-important Department of Veterans Affairs. Secretary Collins, great to talk with you. And look at you, congressman to podcaster to cabinet secretary. It gives hope to all of us, sir.
Well, it's a bar we all shoot for. But just being on your show, I mean, look, I made it in D.C., so you got Mercy there as well. So hey, life is good this morning.
See, Larry,
Appreciate
I serve
it,
a
sir.
purpose. Thank you.
Listen,
Doug.
yes, we spent some time praising you, Secretary Collins, yesterday because you understand how the media works, and you had a woman who seemed to be a perfectly nice reporter for military.com, but you sort of called her out to her face about this trend we see with journalists, peddling in rumors and making the fact that there is a rumor a story in and of itself instead of actually informing the public. And I want you to sort of expand on this because you emphasized how this is destructive to the veterans. She was, talking about Doge, talking about alleged rumors about cuts in veterans benefits that would affect these veterans. And I know that their intent is to try to harm Trump, but what ends up happening is it harms those actual veterans that you're trying to serve.
You're exactly right. And this is why I've been on the job now for about 5 weeks, and I've been putting out truth. I'm one of the most visible Secretary of VA and many cabinet secretaries there. We're on social media all the time. I do videos. I talk about what's going on. I go on all forms of media to discuss it. And it's just gotten to be where when I'm dealing with, frankly, innuendo, falsehoods, lies, rumors that are coming out of the media, also coming out of members of Congress and also union bosses and others, you just have to fight back. And what they don't realize is yes, they don't like President Trump. They don't like Elon Musk. They don't like me, whatever. But at the end of the day, when you're doing what you're doing and saying, rumor has it, and the headlines in those articles were very damaging to people who were scared that they're going to lose benefits, lose health care, in their very vulnerable state. And I just say, look, you can't keep scaring my veterans, but also I'm going to take a separate, for those who work at the VA, I'm tired of them scaring my employees too. We're going through a normal process over here of trying to make sure we're giving the most efficient, best use of the resources that we have. And that means some change is probably going to come. But let's not scare people. This is going through a deliberative process, and I'm just sick of the media doing it. And I very politely asked her, I said, will you commit to not starting a story with rumor has it? I mean, it literally was in the first line of the story.
Yeah, it's unreal. I got to ask you, Secretary, what is the biggest issue that you are confronting thus far at the Veterans Affairs Department? What are you looking to do to tackle it?
The biggest issues we're facing right now is refocusing ourselves. And, it's refocus on the fact that the veteran is why the VA exists, not the VA itself. And over the years, members of Congress, both parties and others, and the growing of federal government, as you've seen here many years, has determined it appears that the organization itself is the centerpiece, and veterans are just helped through the centerpiece. I reverse that. It's the veteran is the centerpiece. The only reason we exist is a veteran. And we do have veterans working for us. The only reason we do that is to make sure that we're servicing. We're not an employment agency. We're not any other agency. We're a service organization. And so I'm confronting that, and also confronting the fact that every answer in D.C. and especially here at the VA is not solved by more money or more people. It's amazing when you ask simple questions like, why do we do this? Why are we hitting, I'll use an example, suicide. Why are we spending $3 billion a year, $588 million on prevention, 2.3 roughly on treatments and others? And we've done this for the last 5 to 7 years, and the number of suicides has stayed the same or even grown, depending on what calculus you want to look at. Why are we not saying this isn't working? Let's try something different. But it's amazing that you don't get that kind of result. So that's the biggest thing we're facing is institutional. They've never been told, let's be great. I'm telling them, I believe in them. Let's be great. Let's let our VA become the shining star that it's supposed to be and help people and veterans get help wherever they need it, in the VA or in communities. That's our job.
Speaking to Secretary Doug Collins of Veterans Affairs, and I'd love to focus on some of the great stuff, the success stories. And, we're huge fans of Fisher House here at WMAL, and I personally have done so much work with them, the amazing leadership of Dave Coker. They're about to open their 100th Fisher House. Is this, and I know you're familiar with them as well, Secretary Collins, is this the kind of thing that the VA could do more of, this sort of private-public partnership with government where there's this great handshake between this foundation at Fisher House who builds these homes for the families of veterans who need care and then hand them back over to VA so that you can manage them right near the hospitals where these Vietnam vets, even World War II vets who are still getting care.
Yep.
I mean, that works. They've proven that it works. Do you envision that actually being more in the future with VA?
Oh, I can see it definitely. And because, look, we don't have, all the answers. We definitely don't have all the resources that we need to fulfill this job. If we did, there'd be no veteran calling their congressman or their senator to get help at the VA. Okay, let's just be frank. If a senator or congressman get a call from a veteran, it means we at the VA have failed in our mission a little bit. Now, I'm not, pointing out saying bad employees. It's just that we have a system that's not working. And I think we've got to look through our system. So I'm looking at everything we can. I work with our VSOs, our veteran service organizations, the traditional ones that are out there that want to work with us instead of, and not just say what's wrong with us at the VA. They want to help us to get it better, and we work as a partnership. But I'm also looking at our nonprofit groups out there, like Fisher House, the others that we have seen, Wounded Warrior, Tunnel Towers, these kind of things that really a lot of our younger veterans are being drawn to because they see a purpose, they see the results, and, that's just one part of it. I'm also looking to go into states where they're having rural healthcare issues, where I'm having maybe some utilization issues in some of my facilities, and I'm going to let's see if we can partner with states, and I've already talked to governors about this, about using some of our resources and their resources so that the population as a whole, our veterans are getting taken care of, and the rural hospitals are having a partnership with us that we can go back and forth with so that clinical skills are kept sharp and people are getting the health care they need. So I'm open to anything that helps a veteran. I'm agnostic as what the cup looks like. My job is to supply the water, so to speak.
Well, Secretary Collins, I will tell you, first of all, I couldn't tell you who your predecessor was. Sadly, during the Biden administration, Veterans Affairs didn't get much attention. But before that, in the first Trump administration,
we'll do Trivial Pursuit of who were the Biden cabinet people? We have no idea. We're just going to put A, B, and C and see who we think.
Undersecretary Wilkie, he had an open-door invitation here. I want to extend the same thing to you. What you are doing is critically important to our nation and certainly important right here on this radio station to the people who care most about what we do, and we care about our veterans so much. So we want to make sure anytime you need to get the word out about anything going on at the Department of Veterans Affairs, please don't hesitate to let us know.
We will definitely do that, and like I said, we'll just keep telling the truth. We can, and I've said this before. I'm talking with one of our employees this morning. I get up early and work out, and then get in the office. I go to our little restaurant. I was sitting there talking to one of our employees today, and one of the things he said, and he said, "Thanks for what you're doing." He said, it's unusual. I said, well, it shouldn't be unusual that the Secretary of Veterans Affairs is actually fighting for his department and not letting people lie about it. And that's just what we're going to do.
Thank you, sir. Well done.
WMAL, making sense of mainstream media because the double standard is real. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
That's right. It's the final countdown here. We are just moments away from the American people deciding on the president in 2028. It's like if you're not in this race already for 2028 president, you're out of luck. Mercedes, we're joining the drumbeat of overhyping the presidential election of 2028 because we're feeling nostalgic about presidential elections, aren't you? I mean, it's only been a couple of months since the last one. So let's get into it.
I need multiple vacations before going and preparing for the 2028 race.
Too late.
I don't. You're so funny. Larry, I'm worried about you because this is what all you want to talk about is the 2028 race. Because
listen.
the bromance on Vance, you're like so ready. I have a weird feeling you might just jump in the race and just become like the campaign manager for JD Vance at this point.
I think he can do much better than I. Mercedes, I'm
Okay,
just following.
comms director?
I'm following where the news. Why do you keep trying to get me out of my job? I'm the morning host on
you know
WMAL.
why.
It doesn't get better.
You know
than
why? It's Schlapp and Company. That's what it is. Schlapp and Company.
I'm merely following where the news cycle takes us. On Monday, Politico was screaming about Rahm Emanuel running. Yesterday, it was Stephen K. Bannon. And now today, it's Pete Buttigieg. They have the exclusive. Buttigieg will not run for Senate in Michigan. I thought he was from Indiana. But no, he's moved to Traverse City, Michigan, because he knows that Michigan is a more Democrat-friendly state than Indiana. That's why he moved, because everything this guy does is a political calculation. My guess is who he decides to sleep with is also a political calculation. He knew, it's like he's just some boring guy from the Midwest, but if he's gay, that'll get attention.
The chest feeding, that really,
that's right.
You bond
the chest
with
feeding
women.
of
You
his
bond
babies
with the mothers when you're chest feeding the twins. That's
that he
bad.
acquired. So according to Politico, he's
Stand
foregoing the Senate race because he wants to run for president in 2028. Some were speculating he might run for governor of Michigan, but no, that's small potatoes. He wants the White House. So there you go. That's the plan.
Well, he's already been Secretary of Transportation. I mean, he can jump to running for president. It is his goal. He's a very articulate speaker, communicator in the Democrat Party. The reality is that he's just as crazy left as the rest of them. And, I think Gavin Newsom is making his whole, revamping his image. And so it's interesting to watch these kind of MAGA people go on Gavin Newsom, giving Gavin Newsom air and giving him I don't know. I don't know if I would do his podcast because I think he's using these MAGA influencers to try to make inroads with the MAGA people. It's the weirdest thing.
It was very weird to see Bannon doing that and playing chummy with him.
Yeah, there was several.
By the way, reinventing your image. Gavin Newsom reinventing your image. In other words, lying about who he really is and what his record is. So there you go. Buttigieg is planning on running, and you're right, he is very articulate, except for the fact that I can't get past the notion that he sounds exactly like Kermit the Frog when he talks. And now that I planted that seed, when you hear him,
wait,
that's
who?
all you'll
Buttigieg?
hear. Buttigieg sounds like Kermit the Frog. Yes.
Oh, I gotta listen to him. I don't know.
It's
I
7:54.
still can't get over the chest feeding. Sorry.
7:54.